I remember the night I made the final payment. The numbers blinked on the screen, the balance turned to 000, and for a moment I just stared. 3 years of skipped dinners, secondhand clothes, sleepless nights, and extra shifts, gone with a single keystroke. I thought I'd finally done it. I thought my family would finally look at me and see something more than the quiet middle child who left home early. But gratitude is a strange thing. It doesn't always arrive when it should. It started with my mother's sigh. "You didn't have to, Emily," she said over the phone, her tone caught between pride and discomfort. "I wanted to," I told her. "It's for all of you." She paused for a second, just long enough to make me wonder if I'd overstepped. Then came her soft, "We'll talk later." Later came 2 weeks after. I walked into my parents' house for Sunday dinner, the same small, cluttered home I'd grown up in, though now the air felt heavier. My older brother Mark gave me that half smile he always used when he was about to be cruel but polite about it. My sister-in-law's eyes darted toward me and then away. Mom was ladling soup when she said it, almost casually, as if she were mentioning the weather. "I heard from Aunt June that you've been telling people you paid off our debts." I froze. "I didn't tell anyone, Mom." She looked at me, her ladle suspended mid-air. "Well, someone must have, because now everyone thinks you're some kind of savior. And honestly, we weren't drowning, you know. You make it sound like we couldn't handle our own lives." I opened my mouth to protest, but Mark chuckled from the table. "She's always been dramatic, Mom. Let her have her moment." Something in me cracked right then. I wanted to scream that it wasn't drama when I pawned my grandmother's bracelet to cover their mortgage payment. That it wasn't a moment when I skipped heating my apartment just to save a few more dollars toward their debt. But I said nothing. Because silence was easier. Because that's what I'd been trained to do. Hold the weight, carry the blame, and never drop it where others could see. Dinner went on as if nothing had happened. 3 days later, my cousin messaged me on Facebook. "Heard you didn't actually pay everything off. They said you just helped a little. Still nice of you, though." I stared at the message until my vision blurred. That night, I scrolled through social media and found a post my brother had written. A smug caption beneath a picture of his family standing in front of the newly painted house. "Family means sticking together through hard times. We did it, guys. Debt-free at last. Hard work pays off." No mention of me. Not a single word. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Dad. His voice was gruff, tired. Listen, don't take all this to heart, okay? You helped, sure, but your mother doesn't like people thinking we relied on you." "I didn't tell anyone, Dad," I said quietly. "I know, sweetheart, but just let it go. For peace." Peace. That word again. Peace for everyone but me. I'd thought paying their debt would fix everything, that it would bring us closer, that it would make them proud. Instead, it turned into something else entirely. Something twisted, unspoken, and ugly. He didn't answer. The air between us thickened, every instinct in my body screaming to run, to get out before whatever was coming reached me too. Then my phone buzzed again in my pocket. I didn't even look, but my father noticed. His gaze snapped to it instantly. "Who's been contacting you?" he asked, voice low. I said nothing. "Emily," he warned, taking a step closer. "Who's been talking to you?" The phone buzzed again, and when I finally glanced down, I saw the message flash across the screen. "They're there. Don't let them take your phone." My breath caught in my throat as I read the message. "Don't let them take your phone." Dad's eyes followed my every movement, sharp and assessing. He'd seen the glow of the screen, the way I tensed. "Who's messaging you?" he asked again, voice low and deliberate now. I shoved the phone into my pocket. "No one." He took another step forward. Emily, don't lie to me. Mom's voice wavered. Tom, stop, please. She's scared. He turned on her sharply. Do you think this is a game? They've been probably watching us for weeks. If she's been talking to someone. I haven't, I interrupted, forcing steadiness into my voice, even as my pulse pounded. He didn't believe me. I could see it in the set of his jaw, the way his eyes darkened. Give me the phone. No! Emily, he said, softer now. That dangerous softness he used when words were just a mask for force. If you've got messages, I need to see them. It's for your own good. I stepped back, clutching the phone tighter. For my good? You forged my signature. You used my name for your lies. Don't talk to me about my good. His patience snapped. You don't understand who we're dealing with. The shout ricocheted through the room. My mother flinched, tears brimming again. I stayed frozen, the phone burning hot in my pocket. Then make me understand, I said quietly. Dad ran a hand through his hair, pacing. When Mark borrowed the money, it wasn't from a bank. He thought he could flip the property, pay them back, and no one would get hurt. But the people he borrowed from, they don't just walk away when things go bad. We were trying to protect him, to protect you. I almost laughed. By making me the legal owner of stolen property? That's not protection. That's a trap. He turned to me, eyes sharp. We didn't have a choice. They were watching us, every move. If the property was in our names, we'd be finished. You were clean. You were the only one they wouldn't touch. My hands were trembling, rage and disbelief mixing until I could barely speak. You made me your shield? He didn't deny it. A long silence stretched between us, the kind that hums with all the words no one wants to say. Then my phone buzzed again. I didn't move. Neither did they. The vibration echoed in the quiet room like a warning. Dad's gaze dropped to my pocket. Answer it, he said. No, I whispered. Answer it! Mom cried out as he lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. His hand was rough, desperate. I jerked back, the phone slipping free and clattering to the floor. Before I could reach it, he kicked it away, sending it skidding under the coffee table. Tom, stop! Mom screamed, pulling at his arm. This isn't helping. I scrambled toward the phone, but he blocked me, breathing hard. You have no idea what you've done. If they think you're talking to someone, they'll come after all of us. Then tell me who they are. Who did Mark borrow from? He hesitated, his face tightening. It doesn't matter. They don't forget, and they don't forgive. The phone buzzed again, a short, sharp vibration from beneath the table. We all froze. Then before Dad could move, Mom bent down, grabbed it, and shoved it into my hands. Go, she whispered. What? Go, she said louder, pushing me toward the door. If you stay, they'll find you too. Dad spun toward her, furious. What are you doing? Saving her, she screamed. I didn't wait. I bolted for the door, yanking it open and stumbling into the night air. The wind hit my face like a slap, cold and sobering. My hands shook as I ran to my car, fumbling with the keys. Behind me, the door slammed. Voices shouted, muffled, frantic, but I didn't turn back. When I finally got the car started, I pressed the gas too hard, tires squealing as I tore down the street. My breath came in sharp, shallow bursts. The phone buzzed in my lap. Get somewhere safe. Don't go home. I typed back, "Where do I go?" "I'll send you a location. You'll understand when you get there." A map link appeared seconds later, a place on the edge of town, near the old industrial district, an abandoned warehouse from the looks of it. Every instinct screamed that this was a terrible idea, but staying put was worse. If what my father said was true, someone dangerous was already watching me.
I parked a few feet away, killed the engine, and sat in the silence, my heart hammering. What if it was a setup? What if this was where they planned to finish it? Tidy up the family's little mistake? Before I could second-guess myself, the side door creaked open. A figure stepped into the light. A man, maybe mid-30s, wearing a gray jacket. His face was partially shadowed, but his posture was cautious, not aggressive. He raised his hand slightly, a gesture of peace. "Emily?" I hesitated. "Who are you?" "Name's Cole. I worked with your brother. I sent the messages." I didn't move closer. "Why?" He looked around, scanning the dark street. "Because you're about to be blamed for something you didn't do. They're setting you up for fraud, maybe worse. Mark's been working with them, the people your father mentioned, the ones he borrowed from. They needed a clean name to launder money through. Yours." I stared at him, stunned. "You're saying my own brother?" "He already cut a deal," Cole interrupted. "When things got bad, he made sure you were the fall guy. Your signature, your account, your investment trail. You're the perfect scapegoat." My stomach turned. "Why are you helping me then?" He exhaled slowly. "Because I was supposed to make it happen." The words hit like a physical blow. "I handled the transfers," he continued, voice low. "Forged paperwork, hid accounts. I thought it was just a favor. I didn't know who the money belonged to. When I found out, I tried to walk away, but they don't let people walk away. Your brother thinks I'm dead." He pulled a small flash drive from his pocket and held it out to me. "Everything's on here. Proof of the fake documents, the shell accounts, the messages between your family and them. You can clear your name, if you move fast." I stared at the drive, hesitant to take it. "If they find out you gave this to me?" "They already know I'm a problem," he said with a grim smile. "You just have to make sure you're not next." I reached out and took the drive. My fingers brushed his, cold, trembling. That's when his expression shifted. His eyes flicked past me toward the street, narrowing. "Did you tell anyone you were coming here?" he asked sharply. "No," I whispered. His face hardened. "Then how the hell did they find you so fast?" Headlights cut through the darkness behind us. A black SUV rolled slowly down the road, its engine a low growl. Cole grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the side of the warehouse. "Move," he hissed. We slipped behind a stack of rusted barrels just as the SUV's engine cut off. My pulse was in my throat, and every instinct told me to run, but Cole's grip tightened, a warning to stay still. The doors opened, and 3 men stepped out. Their movements were slow, deliberate. They didn't need to rush. They knew whoever they were looking for wouldn't get far. One of them held a flashlight, slicing beams through the night air, brushing over the gravel, the broken fence, the warehouse walls.
Cole leaned close to my ear. "Stay low. Don't speak unless I tell you." His voice was barely a breath. The beam passed inches from our hiding spot, illuminating the dust in the air. I held my breath, counting the seconds between each step they took. "Car's still warm," one of them muttered. "She's here." A cold wave washed through me. They knew. Cole's hand moved slowly toward his jacket pocket, and I saw the dull glint of a gun. My eyes widened, but he gave me a tiny shake of his head, silently begging me not to panic. The men spread out. One stayed near the car, another circled toward the side entrance, and the third, the one with the flashlight, started moving closer to us. Gravel crunched under his boots.
Each step was measured, unhurried. Cole whispered, "When I move, go through the back door. Don't look back." "What about you?" I whispered. He didn't answer. His jaw tightened, eyes fixed on the man approaching. Then he stepped out from behind the barrels. "Looking for me?" Cole's voice was calm, confident, the kind of voice that sounded like it belonged to someone in control, even when he wasn't. The flashlight swung toward him. "Well, look who's alive," the man sneered. "Boss said you were done." Cole smirked. "You know me. Hard to kill." That was all the time I needed. I bolted toward the back of the warehouse, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. Behind me, shouts erupted, then the sharp crack of gunfire. I ducked through a half-broken door, stumbling into the darkness. The inside of the warehouse smelled of oil and rust. Moonlight filtered through cracked windows, glinting off old machinery. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and uneven, echoing in the emptiness. I crouched behind a metal crate, clutching the flash drive like it was life itself. More footsteps echoed from the front of the building. 2 sets, fast. They were coming for me. I needed a way out. My eyes darted around until I spotted a narrow metal staircase leading to a catwalk. I climbed it quickly, careful not to make noise. From up there, I could see the whole floor. The men entered below, flashlights sweeping the shadows. "She couldn't have gone far," one of them shouted. "She's got what we need," the other answered. "The boss wants her alive, at least for now." The sound of their voices made my blood run cold. Alive for now.
I shouted back, "You picked the wrong name to use!" A bullet hit the column inches from my face. I dropped low, heart hammering. I had to get out before they reached the stairs. Then I saw it. A skylight, cracked but still intact, near the end of the catwalk. It was a risk, but it was the only chance I had. I sprinted toward it, the whole structure shaking beneath me. The men yelled, footsteps pounding after me. I grabbed a rusted pipe and swung it at the glass. It shattered, shards raining down into the night. Without thinking, I climbed up and pulled myself through. The cool night air hit me like a wave. I crawled onto the roof, bleeding from a cut on my palm, and started toward the edge. Below, I could see the SUV still parked by my car. Another vehicle had joined it, a sleek black sedan. The headlights turned off, and someone stepped out. Even from this distance, I recognized him. Mark. My brother. He looked calm, detached, like he'd just arrived to supervise a business deal, not a hunt. The men below turned to him as if waiting for orders. He pointed toward the warehouse. "Find her. She has the drive." I felt sick. All the air left my lungs. Cole had been right. Mark wasn't just caught in the mess, he'd built it. "Emily!" a voice shouted behind me. "Cole!" I turned to see him climbing through the skylight, his shoulder bleeding. He yelled, "Go! They're surrounding the place!" I hesitated for a split second, torn between staying to help him and running. He saw the hesitation and barked, "Don't think, move." I sprinted toward the edge of the roof, saw the drop, 2 stories, and junked. The landing knocked the breath out of me, but adrenaline kept me moving. I ran toward the alley behind the warehouse, every muscle screaming. Cole followed seconds later, hitting the ground hard but still on his feet. We dashed through the narrow alleyway, our footsteps echoing off the concrete. Behind us, the warehouse door burst open, flashlights cut through the dark, voices shouting orders. We reached the end of the alley, fenced off with barbed wire. Cole cursed under his breath. "This way." He pointed toward a drainage tunnel, partially hidden behind an old dumpster. We squeezed inside, crawling through the cold, wet metal until the light disappeared behind us. It was pitch black except for the faint glow of my phone. I turned it on and saw Cole pressing a hand against his wound. The blood was spreading fast. "We need to get you help," I whispered. He shook his head. "No hospitals. They'll trace it." "Then what do we do?" He looked at me, breathing hard. "You get that drive to someone who can expose them. There's a reporter, Natalie Quinn, at the Tribune. She's been investigating these people for years. Find her. She'll know what to do." "What about you?"
He smiled faintly, eyes heavy. I'll buy you time. No, I said, shaking my head. I'm not leaving another person behind because of my family's lies. A flicker of something, maybe even regret, passed over his face. You're a lot tougher than Mark ever said. Don't, I snapped. Don't say his name. He gave a faint, humorless smile. Fair. We moved slowly through the narrow pipe, the air damp and metallic. Each time he stumbled, I steadied him, and each time he muttered some half-hearted protest I ignored. The sound of pursuit grew distant, replaced by the steady drip of water somewhere ahead. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel widened and opened into a small concrete chamber. Rusted ladders led up to a grate above. I craned my neck and saw faint streetlight filtering through. Cole nodded toward it. That's your way out. Our way out, I corrected. Before he could argue, I started climbing, my hand slipping on the cold metal. When I reached the top, I pushed at the grate. It resisted for a second, then gave way with a groan. Cold night air rushed in. I hauled myself out first, then leaned back down. Come on, I whispered. Cole hesitated, breathing hard. If I slow you down, then I'll carry you. He stared at me for a long second, then managed a weak grin. You're more stubborn than anyone I've ever met. Get used to it. With visible effort, he climbed up and I helped pull him through the opening. We emerged into an alley behind a row of shuttered shops. The city was quiet now, almost eerily so. No traffic, no pedestrians, just the hum of distant streetlights and the occasional gust of wind. Cole leaned heavily against the wall, clutching his shoulder. We can't stay out in the open. They'll sweep the area soon. I glanced up and down the street. There's a motel a few blocks from here, I said, remembering the sign had passed earlier that night. It's old, cheap, probably cash only. He nodded faintly. Perfect. We moved quickly, sticking to the shadows. My nerves were frayed. Every sound made me flinch. A dog barked somewhere. A car door slammed, and each time, my heart jumped into my throat. When we reached the motel, the neon sign flickered weakly. Sunset Inn, vacancy. The man behind the counter barely looked up when I asked for a room. He took the crumpled bills I offered, slid me a key, and went back to his television without a word. Once inside the room, I locked the door, drew the curtains, and helped Cole onto the bed. The sheets smelled faintly of detergent and something older, like cigarettes. He winced as I peeled back his jacket and saw the wound. The bleeding had slowed, but the skin around it was raw and dark. I need to clean this, I said, heading for the bathroom. I found an old first aid kit under the sink, half empty, but usable. Cole gritted his teeth as I cleaned the wound with antiseptic. You ever done this before? He asked, between sharp breaths. Only on myself, I said. When I was younger, I used to fall off my bike a lot. He chuckled, then groaned from the pain. Guess that's one way to learn. When I finished, I sat back, hands shaking slightly. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion in its place. Cole's eyes drifted toward the flash drive on the nightstand. That thing, he said quietly, is more dangerous than it looks. It's not just your family on there. There are politicians, contractors, people who've been laundering money through shell charities for years. If it goes public, it'll burn a lot of powerful people. I stared at him. So Mark knew all this? He didn't care. He thought if he played along, he'd get a cut. Your father tried to clean it up before it got worse, but by then, it was too deep. I swallowed hard. So they all knew. Mom, Dad, Mark, every one of them. He nodded. You were the only one who didn't. That's why they used your name. I turned away, staring at the worn wallpaper. They told everyone I did nothing for them, that I was selfish, all while using me as a cover for their crimes. That's what people like them do. They destroy what's good so no one else can see how rotten they are. For a while, we sat in silence. Outside, a siren wailed faintly somewhere in the distance, then faded. Cole shifted, grimacing. You should rest for a bit. We move before sunrays.
I shook my head. You rest. I'll keep watch. He was too tired to argue. Within minutes, his breathing steadied, his head sinking against the pillow. I sat by the window, peeking through the curtains. The parking lot was empty except for my car and an old pickup truck. The flickering neon sign outside cast the room in a pulse of pink and white. I reached for the flash drive, holding it up to the dim light. Such a small thing, but it held enough truth to ruin lives, enough to destroy everything my family had built and everything they'd taken from me. For a moment, I considered just running, leaving the country, disappearing with a new name, letting them all burn quietly in the fire they'd started. But then I remembered my father's face when he shouted at me, the way my mother cried, the way Mark looked at me from the SUV, cold, unrecognizing. They would keep doing this, to others, to anyone they could use. I couldn't let that happen. I pulled my laptop from the bag, plugged in the flash drive, and waited for it to load. Folders appeared, dozens of them, each labeled with names, numbers, offshore accounts. My eyes blurred as I scrolled through the evidence, falsified deeds, fake foundations, messages between government officials and shell companies. Then one folder caught my eye, Project Mirror. I opened it. Inside were photos, grainy surveillance shots. My house, my car, my office, each one tagged with dates and times. They'd been watching me long before I ever knew. The last photo made my stomach drop. It was taken that night, me and Cole running from the warehouse, time-stamped less than an hour ago. I looked toward the door. A shadow moved under the crack of light on the floor. Someone was outside. The shadow lingered under the door like a held breath. My fingers hovered above the laptop, heart pounding so loud it filled the silence. I reached out, closed the screen quietly, and slipped the flash drive free. The metal was warm from the machine. Warm, like a heartbeat, like something alive. Cole stirred on the bed, instinct sharp even through exhaustion. His eyes opened halfway, unfocused. "What is it?" he whispered. "Someone's outside." He was on his feet instantly, though pain made his movement staggered. He grabbed his jacket and the gun from the nightstand. "Back wall," he muttered, nodding toward the tiny bathroom window. "If it's them, you don't wait, you run." A knock came. Light. Polite. Terrifying. "Emily," a voice called. Calm. Familiar. I froze. It was Mark. Cole's expression hardened. He mouthed, "Don't answer." But Mark spoke again, his tone honeyed, casual, the voice he used when selling a lie. "I know you're in there. I just want to talk. Let's stop pretending this can end any other way." Cole moved closer to the door, gun raised. He whispered, "He's stalling. There's more of them." And then the sound of gravel crunching outside, multiple footsteps. Mark kept talking. "You think you've won? That flash drive won't save you. Do you even know what's on it, Emily? It's not just us. It's people who don't forgive mistakes, people who will burn everything, including you, to keep it quiet." Cole mouthed, "Window, now." I hesitated, every muscle screaming not to leave. This was my brother, the same person who'd held my hand when I was little, who'd once sworn he'd never let anything bad happen to me. But the man outside wasn't that brother anymore.
He pressed the gun into my hand. "You're the only one who can end this. Get that drive to the reporter, no matter what happens." Before I could protest, the door exploded inward. The impact threw me backward, ears ringing. 2 men stormed in, guns drawn. Cole fired first. 1 shot, then another. 1 man dropped. The other ducked behind the door, firing back. The window shattered beside me. I grabbed the flash drive and crawled toward it, glass biting into my hands. Cole shouted something, but I couldn't hear. My body moved on instinct. Climb, jump, run. I fell hard on the gravel behind the motel, scrambled to my feet, and sprinted toward the parking lot. My lungs burned, my legs barely keeping pace with my heartbeat. Behind me, more gunshots, then a scream. I didn't look back. I jumped into my car, jammed the key in the ignition, and tore out of the lot. Headlights flared in the rearview mirror, 2 vehicles following. The streets blurred into streaks of light and shadow. Every red light felt like a death sentence, every turn a gamble. But I kept driving, faster, until the city lights faded and the open highway swallowed me whole. Cole's voice echoed in my head, "Find Natalie Quinn." I grabbed my phone, opened the map, and searched her name. The Tribune office wasn't far, just outside the downtown district. I drove like my life depended on it, because it did. When I reached the building, the sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky in streaks of gray and gold. The streets were nearly empty. I parked across the road, clutching the flash drive so tightly my knuckles ached. The glass doors were locked, but a security guard let me in after I showed him my ID and mumbled something about urgent evidence. My reflection in the door looked like a ghost, pale, hollow-eyed, smeared with dirt and dried blood. Natalie Quinn was exactly where I hoped she'd be, sitting behind a cluttered desk, coffee in hand, surrounded by stacks of paper and glowing monitors. Her eyes narrowed as I approached. "Can I help you?" I placed the flash drive on her desk. "You've been looking into the Shardwell fraud case." Her gaze flicked from me to the drive. "Who are you?" "Emily Carson, and that drive will blow it open." She hesitated, studying me for a long moment. Then she plugged it in. As the files loaded, her expression changed from suspicion to shock to something like fear. "My God," she whispered. "This is everything, the entire network. How did you—" "They used my name, my accounts, my life." Before she could respond, the glass behind us shattered. A gunshot cracked through the morning air. I ducked, dragging Natalie down with me as bullets tore through her office. "Get away from the windows," she shouted. I scrambled behind a desk. Outside, tires screeched. I caught a glimpse of a black sedan pulling away, the same one from the warehouse. Natalie looked at me, breathless. "They'll come back. Then release it, all of it, right now." She hesitated. "If we go public, they'll come after both of us. They already have." For a long second, we just stared at each other. Then she nodded and began typing furiously, uploading the contents of the drive to the Tribune's secure servers. "Once it's up, it's irreversible," she said. "You sure you're ready for that?" I thought of my father's face, my mother's tears, Mark's cold voice outside the motel. "I've been ready since the moment they said I did nothing for them." The upload bar filled slowly, 30%, 50%, 80%. Each second felt stretched thin. Finally, 100%. Natalie leaned back. "It's live." We both sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what we'd done hanging heavy in the air. Then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You think you've won?" It was Mark. "You just started a war you can't control." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "You shouldn't have underestimated the one person you thought was powerless." I blocked the number. Within minutes, news alerts began popping up on Natalie's monitor, headlines multiplying, stories breaking across every major network. Massive financial scandal exposed, political and corporate collusion uncovered, family at center of fraud investigation. The world was finally seeing them for what they were. Outside, the city stirred awake, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Natalie turned to me. "You just changed everything. You know that?" I exhaled slowly, feeling the adrenaline drain away, leaving something colder, cleaner. "No," I said. "I just stopped them from changing me." For the first time in years, I felt light. Not safe, I doubted I ever would be again, but free. As I stepped out into the morning light, the air smelled of rain and renewal. Somewhere behind me, sirens wailed, closing in on the ruins of my family's empire. And for the first time since it all began, I didn't look back. I walked forward, toward whatever came next.
Weeks passed. They barely called. When they did, it was brief and careful, as if my presence was a reminder of something they didn't want to face. Then, one afternoon, Mark's wife posted a picture. A family dinner, everyone smiling around the table. Everyone except me. I hadn't even been invited. The caption read, "Nothing stronger than family who never forgets where they came from, Red Heart." That's when I stopped trying to call. But the silence didn't last long, because life, in its cruel symmetry, always finds a way to twist the knife deeper. It was 2 months later when my mother showed up at my apartment door, eyes red and jaw tight. I hadn't seen her since that dinner. "Can we talk?" she asked. I let her in. She sat on the edge of the couch, her hands trembling slightly as she clasped them together. "It's about Mark," she began. "He lost his job. They're struggling, and, well, your father and I were wondering if you could help again, just until they get back on their feet." I stared at her, at the woman who had raised me, loved me, and still somehow couldn't see me. "You want me to pay their bills?" I asked. She hesitated. "Just for a little while. You're doing so well, Em. You've always been good with money." I felt something inside me shift. A quiet, dangerous calm. "Mom," I said slowly, "when I paid off your debt, did you ever tell anyone?" Her lips parted. Well, not really. Maybe I mentioned it once or twice, but people exaggerate. You know how they are." I nodded. "And when everyone said I did nothing for you?" She looked away. "It's complicated. You know how your brother gets." "I know exactly how he gets." She exhaled, rubbing her temples. "So, you'll help him, right? Just this once?" The clock on the wall ticked, loud and steady, filling the silence between us. "I can't," I said finally. Her head snapped up. "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean I won't." For the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Confusion? Maybe disbelief? "Emily, he's your brother." "And I'm your daughter," I said softly. "But that didn't matter when you let everyone think I did nothing." Her lips trembled. "We didn't mean—" "You did. You just didn't expect me to stop forgiving it." For a long time, she didn't move. Then, without another word, she stood up and walked to the door. Her voice was barely a whisper when she said, "You've changed." As the door clicked shut behind her, I whispered to the empty room, "No, Mom. I just stopped pretending."
But that wasn't the end. Because lies, especially the quiet, convenient kind, never stay buried for long. It started with a message from an unknown number, late one night. You think they told you everything. The number had no name, no profile picture, just those words. And then another. Ask Mark what really happened to that money. The next morning, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I drove back to my parents' house, uninvited, unannounced. When Mark opened the door, his expression twisted from surprise to irritation. "What do you want now?" "I want the truth. About the money." His face went pale. "Don't play dumb," I continued. "I paid off the entire debt, every cent, but someone told me you might have done something with it." He swallowed hard. eyes darting toward the hallway where our mother's voice drifted faintly. "Emily, you don't want to start this," he muttered. "Oh, I do, because I think I deserve to know what I actually paid for." He took a deep breath, looked me in the eye, and said, "It wasn't all debt, okay?" For a moment, I didn't understand. My brain refused to piece together the meaning behind his words. "What do you mean it wasn't all debt?" I asked slowly. He shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. "Mom exaggerated. Yes, we owed some money, the mortgage, a few credit cards, but not what she told you. She added more, said it was all family stuff and you didn't question it. You just paid." I stared at him, the air around me going thin. "How much more?" He sighed. "About 25 grand. My stomach turned. What happened to it? His eyes flickered. Guilt, shame, or maybe something worse. It went into the house, the renovation, the new kitchen, the paint. That renovation, the one you bragged about online, you used my money for that? He raised his voice slightly, defensive now. We didn't use it, Em. It was still family money. You said you wanted to help the family, right? Well, we made the house better. It's for all of us. For all of us? I repeated, my voice shaking. You didn't even invite me there anymore. You cut me out of family photos. You told people I did nothing, and now you're telling me you used my money to repaint the damn walls? He took a step back, his face hardening. You're making it sound worse than it was. You didn't need it. You live alone. You've got no kids, no one depending on you. We had responsibilities. Mom said you'd understand. That line, Mom said you'd understand, hit me like a slap. Because I did understand. I understood perfectly. I'd been raised to be the safety net, the fixer, the one who doesn't need anything, the one who gives quietly and never demands credit, the responsible one, the invisible one. Does Dad know?
Mark hesitated. He kind of knows. He thought it was Mom's idea. She said you wanted it that way. I laughed, a dry, broken sound that didn't feel like it came from me. Of course she did. From the hallway, Mom's voice called out, "Mark, who's at the door?" He didn't answer. She appeared a second later, wiping her hands on a towel, and froze when she saw me. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I looked straight at her. "You lied to me." Her lips pressed together. "I don't know what your brother told you." "Stop," I said, my voice sharp. "You told me you needed help to pay off debts, but there was no debt. Not like you said. You took my money, you used it to redo the house, to play happy family, while you made me the fool." Her eyes flickered with something. Not guilt, not even fear. Annoyance. "We did what we had to do. You wouldn't understand, Emily. You've never had a family to support." I blinked. "I am your family. You don't have children. You don't know what it's like to make choices for everyone's good. You were just doing well, and we needed help. We thought you'd be glad to help." "Glad?" I whispered. "You lied to me, humiliated me, and then told people I did nothing for you." Her tone softened, the way it always did when she wanted control back. "Don't twist this into something ugly, sweetheart. You know your brother's pride. He didn't want people thinking he couldn't provide. We just wanted to protect him." "And what about me?" I asked. "Who protected me?" No answer. Just the ticking clock in the living room and the faint hum of the refrigerator. "I paid off everything because I thought it would bring us closer," I said, my voice trembling now. "But all it did was show me that I was never part of this family the way you say. I was just convenient." Mark crossed his arms. You're overreacting. You got your praise. Everyone knows you're successful. Isn't that what you wanted? I turned to him slowly. Praise? I didn't want praise, Mark. I wanted honesty. I wanted you all to see me, to treat me like I mattered. He scoffed. You always make everything about feelings. I felt something inside me collapse. Not a sharp pain, but a quiet breaking, the kind you don't notice until it's too late. Mom's eye softened, as if pitying me. You're tired, Emily. Maybe you should go home, rest, clear your head. That tone, that patronizing calm, the same one she used when I was 10 and told her Mark broke my favorite bookcase. I took a slow breath. I'm not coming back here again, I said quietly. Her smile faltered. Don't be dramatic. I'm not, I replied. I'm done. I turned toward the door, but her voice stopped me. You'll regret this. Family is all you have. I looked back at her, the woman I'd once tried so hard to save. Maybe that's the problem, I said. Outside, the air was cold, sharper than I remembered. I walked to my car, my hands shaking not from anger, but from something deeper. Grief, maybe. The grief of realizing you were never really loved the way you thought. When I got home, I sat in the dark for a long time. My phone buzzed. A message from Dad. Whatever's going on, just remember your mother means well. I didn't reply. I thought of that anonymous message again. Ask Mark what really happened to that money. He'd admitted some of it, but not all. There was something else, something he didn't say. I opened my laptop, pulled up my old bank transfers, and started tracing the payments. Most went to the mortgage company and utilities, legitimate enough. But one, near the end, stood out. A transfer to a name I didn't recognize. K. Dawes Construction. I didn't remember approving that one. My stomach twisted. I searched the name, and when the result came up, my blood ran cold. It wasn't a construction company. It was an investment account under Mark's name. I leaned back, my heart pounding, realization dawning slowly and terribly. He hadn't just used my money for renovations. He'd hidden part of it, tens of thousands tucked away where no one would look. And now, someone else knew about it too. I looked again at that anonymous text. There was another message now, sent 5 minutes ago. You're getting close. Don't trust them. My hands trembled as I typed back, Who are you? No response. Just the blinking cursor. And somewhere, deep down, a new kind of fear began to grow. The kind that told me this wasn't just about money anymore. I stared at the screen for a long time, watching the typing cursor blink like a heartbeat in the dark. The room was silent except for the hum of my laptop fan and the faint creak of the building settling around me. I checked the number again. Still no name, no profile photo, nothing. Just that same gray bubble sitting there, waiting. My mind ran through possibilities. A scammer, someone from Mark's circle, or maybe someone who'd seen what he did and wanted to stir trouble. But how would they even know my number? I pushed the laptop away and stood, pacing the room. The realization about the money still throbbed in the back of my skull like a pulse. Mark had taken part of it, stolen it, really, and hidden it behind a fake company. And my parents, whether they knew or not, had been complicit by silence. The phone buzzed again, another message. He moved the rest last week. Ask him about Dawson Street. Dawson Street? I froze. That name was not random. It was where my grandmother's old property was, the one my parents had sold years ago after she died. The money from that sale was supposed to help them stay afloat. At least that's what Mom had said. My heart started to race. I grabbed my coat and keys without thinking.
They weren't supposed to be here. As far as I knew, the house had been sold years ago. Yet here they were, in the middle of the night, arguing quietly in my grandmother's living room. I got out of the car and crossed the street. The night air bit cold against my skin, but my pulse was too loud to care. I crept closer to the house, careful not to crunch the gravel. Through the window, I could hear fragments of conversation, voices low but urgent. "Told you not to move it yet," Dad said, his tone sharp. "It's fine," Mark replied. "She doesn't know. She won't ever know." "You think she's stupid? She's been asking questions." "She doesn't have proof?" My breath caught. Then Dad said something that froze me completely. "If she finds out the property's still in your name, we're done." Still in your name? The truth hit me all at once. They hadn't sold the house. They'd used my money to buy it back, to hide it. The debt had never been real. It had been a cover for the purchase. They'd taken my sacrifices and turned them into something to keep for themselves. I stepped back, my heart hammering, a branch snapping beneath my shoe. Both heads turned toward the window. "Did you hear that?" Mark's voice, tense. I ducked behind the fence, holding my breath. A moment later, the front door opened. Mark stepped outside, scanning the yard. His face was lit by the porch light, eyes narrowed. "Hello?" he called. I didn't move. He lingered for a few seconds, then muttered something under his breath and went back inside. When the door shut again, I exhaled shakily. My phone vibrated in my pocket, making me jump. Another message. "Now you see it. They've been lying since the beginning." I didn't even bother replying. I just stared at that glowing house, the house my grandmother had once filled with stories and laughter, the one she'd wanted to leave for the kids. I wondered what she'd say if she could see what her children had turned it into. I got back in the car, my hands trembling. I didn't drive home right away. I sat there in the cold, watching my breath fog up the windshield. I wanted to cry, but no tears came, just a deep, aching hollowness. How long had they planned it? Was it from the start? The phone call where Mom first told me about the debt? The guilt trips? The soft words? The way they let me feel like a savior while quietly rewriting the truth? They'd let me pay for a house I didn't even know existed anymore. By the time I reached my apartment, dawn was bleeding into the sky. I shut off my phone, crawled into bed, and lay awake staring at the ceiling. Every word they'd said to me over the last few months replayed in my mind, twisting, changing meaning under the weight of what I now knew. By noon, I decided I couldn't ignore it. I opened my laptop again, this time determined to trace every transfer, every invoice, every fake receipt. I compared the dates, the account numbers, the statements. Slowly, the pattern emerged. They'd funneled the money in increments wrapped in made-up expenses, all leading to a trust tied to Dawson Street. But the trust wasn't just under Mark's name. It was under my name, too. That's when I realized it wasn't just theft. It was manipulation. They'd made it look like I had invested in the property with them, which meant if anything came out, unpaid taxes, fraudulent filings, anything, it would trace back to me. My chest tightened. I could hear my pulse in my ears. They hadn't just used me for money. They'd used me as a shield. The phone buzzed again. That same unknown number. "You're legally tied to it now." They made sure of it. I typed back, "Who are you? How do you know this?"
A pause. Then, "I used to work with your brother. I know what he did. You need to get ahead of this before they do." I sat frozen, staring at the message. My brother, my own family, and now some stranger who apparently knew more about my life than I did. Before I could type another word, my phone lit up with a new notification.
A call from my mother. For a moment, I just watched her name glow on the screen. Then I answered. "Emily," she said, her voice trembling, "whatever you've heard, don't believe it. We were going to tell you, but you've got it all wrong." I stayed silent. "Mark's just been under pressure, that's all. He made mistakes, but it's not like you think. You know how family gets messy." I cut her off. "Who's Kay Dawes?" The silence on the other end told me everything. Then, faintly, "Where did you hear that name?" I didn't reply. I could hear her breathing, uneven, shaking, and behind her the faint echo of a man's voice, Mark's, asking who she was talking to. "Emily," she whispered finally, "don't do anything stupid. We can fix this, but you have to trust us." Her words sank into me like ice, because that was the same tone she'd used my entire life. Calm, careful, pretending to protect me while hiding something behind her smile. Only this time I wasn't a child anymore. I hung up. The next message came seconds later. "They know you found out. Get ready." The words glowed on my phone like a warning flare. "They know you found out. Get ready." For a long moment, I just sat there, the silence of my apartment pressing in from all sides. The city outside was coming alive, traffic rumbling distantly, but everything around me felt muffled, unreal, as if I'd slipped into someone else's life. I kept staring at the message, my mind caught between disbelief and the creeping, steady pulse of fear. Get ready for what? I tried calling the number, but it went straight to voicemail. No name, no voice greeting, nothing. Just a click and the empty hum of the line. I hung up and set the phone on the counter, forcing myself to breathe. It didn't make sense. Why would they be warning me? Who were they to even know what was happening between me and my family, unless they weren't just watching, unless they were part of it? The thought made my stomach twist. I locked the doors, pulled the curtains, and opened my laptop again. I went through every document, emails, receipts, wire confirmations, anything that could prove what they'd done. If Mark or my parents were trying to make me look complicit, I needed evidence before they buried me under it. Half an hour later, I found it. A PDF labeled Property Agreement 2022. I didn't remember signing it, but my name and digital signature were right there. It stated I had authorized the transfer of funds for joint real estate acquisition. The date matched one of the larger transactions I'd made toward their supposed mortgage. They hadn't just stolen my money, they'd forged my consent. I felt my throat tighten. My own family had turned me into a paper accomplice. I printed everything, every file, every record, spreading the pages across my kitchen table. The paper smelled faintly of ink and betrayal. My hands were trembling when I gathered them into a folder. If I was going down, I'd make sure they went with me. The next knock nearly sent me through the ceiling. 3 hard raps on the door. I froze. Another knock. Louder this time. "Emily, it's Dad." My heart lurched. I hadn't even told them I knew. How did he— "Sweetheart, open up. We need to talk." His voice was calm. Too calm. That same tone he used when he was hiding something under his words. I stepped quietly to the peephole. He was standing there, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Behind him, the hallway was empty. "I don't want to talk right now," I said through the door. "Please," he said softly. "You've got it all wrong. We never meant to hurt you. Let's just sit down and sort it out." I hesitated. A part of me, the part still wired for obedience, wanted to open the door, to listen, to believe. But another part, the one that had spent years swallowing silence, whispered, "Don't." "I'll call you later," I said instead. "Emily," his voice sharpened, the softness slipping, "you need to open the door. This isn't something to play around with." I backed away, pulse hammering. "If you don't leave, I'm calling the police." There was a long pause, then almost a sigh. You shouldn't have gone to Dawson Street. You don't know what you've started. My blood ran cold. Before I could answer, he turned and walked away, his footsteps fading down the hall. I stood there for what felt like hours, listening to the silence settle again. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely lock the deadbolt. When I finally picked up my phone, another message was waiting. They'll try to scare you first, then they'll offer money. Don't take it. I typed back, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" To make them pay. Same as you. Same as me. I read the line over and over, my thoughts spinning. Whoever this was, they weren't warning me out of kindness. They had their own stake in this. Maybe an ex-employee, maybe someone Mark had burned. But how deep did it go?
I needed answers, and the only way to get them was to confront the person who started it, my mother. By evening, I was standing outside my parents' house again. The lights were on, the curtains drawn, and that familiar scent of dinner drifted faintly from the open kitchen window. It felt surreal. The same place where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, now the heart of everything that had gone wrong. I knocked. Mom opened the door, her expression flickering between surprise and wariness. "Emily, where's Dad?" I asked. "He's out," she said quickly. "He had a meeting." "Why, stop lying," I cut in. "He came to my apartment this morning." Her eyes widened just slightly. "He was just worried about you." "Worried?" I stepped inside, my voice rising. "He said I shouldn't have gone to Dawson Street. He knew I went there." "How did he know, Mom? Who told him?" She shut the door behind me slowly. "You're overthinking things." "Don't do that," I snapped. "Don't make me feel crazy when I know what you did. I found the documents, the property, the fake transfers, the forged signature. You and Mark made it look like I was part of it." Her face drained of color. I took a step closer. "How long were you going to keep it up? Until I found out on my own? Until I got dragged into whatever scheme you've built?" "Emily, please, you don't understand." "No, you don't understand," I said with my voice shaking. "I spent years breaking myself apart to help you. I gave you everything, and you used it to buy a house and build a lie around my name." She reached out, but I stepped back. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Mark, he got involved with the wrong people. He borrowed money from them to fix the house, but things went bad. He needed to make it right. We thought if we could just use your name for the paperwork, they'd leave him alone." "My name?" I repeated, stunned. "You used my name to protect him from criminals?" Tears welled in her eyes. "He's your brother, Emily. What were we supposed to do? Watch him get hurt?" I stared at her, my throat burning. "You could have told me. You could have trusted me." Her shoulders sagged. "We were trying to protect you. By framing me?" The front door creaked suddenly, and both of us turned. My father stepped in, his eyes dark, unreadable. "Enough," he said. "We're not doing this again." He looked at me, and for the first time I saw something in his expression that chilled me more than anger. Calculation. "You've seen too much, Emily, and now you're involved whether you like it or not." My mother turned toward him sharply. "Tom!" He cut her off with a look. "They already know she's been asking questions. If she goes to the police, we're all finished." I took a step back. "Who's they?"